Sure. So, but do please try to speak maybe a little louder this week than you might normally. Um, so we can't put anything up on the wall. That's why Drew printed out those copies of Dana's presentation for you. We were going to project them and run your slideshow, but we can't. So.
Okay.
You can go ahead, call the meeting to order and proceed as,
Just to know if you started recording it.
Yeah.
Normally,
Yeah.
the thing announce it, okay. Okay, good afternoon, I'm Richard Lonsdale, Chairman of the Yelp Planning Commission. I call the meeting to order. Today's Tuesday, October 21st, 2025. The time is 4:04 p.m. Staff, please take roll call.
Commissioner Richard Lumsdale,
Here.
Commissioner Bob Howard is excused, Commissioner John Graver,
Here.
Commissioner Dana Allen,
Here.
Commissioner Ann Warman,
Here.
Commissioner Robert Bailey,
Here.
and Commissioner Christopher Lay.
Here. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, has everybody had an opportunity to read the attached minutes? Okay, is there a motion to approve the minutes? Make a motion that we approve the minutes. Okay, all in favor?
We
say
need
aye.
a second.
Second. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Okay, conflict of interest. Has anybody, everyone had an opportunity to read the agenda? Yeah. Are there any conflicts of interest present between any commissioner and the item? Have you heard? Staff, are there any staff communications?
I will save my communications to when we get to my item on the agenda and new business.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the commission? On the unfinished business, staff, is there any unfinished business from the last meeting?
No, sir.
Staff, is there any new business?
Yes, we have 3 items on the agenda.
Okay.
The first is actually an update that Commissioner Allen is going to provide on the rules and procedures. So I will hand you the floor.
What was printed. So everyone has their handout. Flip to the first page, just go over the contents. I'll be going over the purpose of the subcommittee, which is Commissioner Warman, Commissioner Lay, and myself. The current planning commission specific documents that we've been provided as part of our welcome packet. A little comparison to what other planning commissions have in different jurisdictions. In doing all this research, there's actually this appendix as part of the City of Yelm Mayor and City Protocol Manual that is specifically for advisory boards and commissions, roles and responsibilities. So we'll go over that. Then go over the other documents that are part of this welcome packet, some recommendations and proposed next steps. So next purpose of the subcommittee, just to go over review and update the current rules of procedure and conduct of business documents and to create bylaws if appropriate. And the reason this came up is that Commissioner Lonsdale kind of was viewing our documents and noticed there were some errors and inconsistencies, and it was probably just stupid to be updated as well. Just next page. So the 3 current planning commission specific documents that were provided as a planning commission is the rules for procedure document, conduct of business document, and another document called recommended staff procedures. Go into that as we go on. So the next page, what do other planning commissions have? So I just compared Olympia, Lacey, Tumwater, and Thurston County. For bylaws, none were explicitly found. There is a link on Thurston County Planning Commission's website that says bylaws, then when you click on it, it goes to rules of procedure. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't think we need bylaws, we exist, it's been established by city ordinance, and I think we're set there, we don't need bylaws. For rules of procedure, what was interesting, well, they all obviously have rules of procedure. But Olympia and Lacey specifically have advisory body guidebooks or handbooks. So we'll get into that as we go on, but just wanted to point that out. And none of them have a separate conduct of business document. The conduct of business is kind of addressed in their either rules of procedure or these advisory body guidebooks or handbooks. Next page. So Mayor and City Protocol Manual Appendix 5, and I didn't write down the title of what that appendix is called. It's called Advisory Body or Advisory Board and Boards and Commissions, Roles and Responsibilities. So it has these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sections. The role of the boards and commissions, policy setting, decision making, work plans and meeting schedules, responsibilities and expectations, required open government training, committee chair, staff support, and meetings and attendance. So Gary is working with the city administrator to find out about this, because I'm not even convinced mayor and city council are aware of this. And if they were, they just haven't shared it with that.
Right, and I actually discussed it today at the management team meeting.
Okay.
Which has the directors, and they were surprised to know that was in the, because it's in the appendix apparently.
Yeah.
And apparently, the way it's written, that applies to all the commissions, and I'm quite certain none of them have been doing an annual meeting of the council. And so it's been brought up, city administrator, mayor are looking.
Moving on that, I was actually gonna ask you, Commissioner Warman, you're on the parks board and you've never done that. Yeah, it's really interesting because the last page, it's the last page of the manual for all the matters, is a acknowledgement form that everyone on the advisory board or commission is supposed to sign. We read it. None of us read it, or signed it, so that's that. Next page, other documents included in the welcome packet. So there's a welcome to the commission packet. I think it's more of a explaining how planning commissions work. The latest copy of the comprehensive plan, the late copy of the current Title 18 United Development Code. Little snippets from these 3 RCW chapters, and call it the current vision plans, the only vision plans from 1995. So what I think we were talking about, it'd be nice to have just one cohesive document, like Lacey and Olympia, thank you, have like a handbook or a guidebook, and these could be appendices to that document. So just
We're supposed to be handing out the 1995 vision plan too?
that's
That's been provided.
the new, as it's 2025, 2025, that was, yeah.
You didn't give me one, but since we're part of it.
I just add it.
That's another one. Like that. So next page, recommendations, obviously working with city council, Gary's already started the conversation, at least with mayor and city administrator. To align expectations, I do think, a work plan, good to have some goals, but obviously we're supposed to work with what the city council's goals are, so it'd be good for them to communicate that kind of their goals, and then for us to propose a work plan, that helps meet those goals, so. And then the rules and procedures document or a handbook or guidebook would kind of detail how that would work. So another point was just to omit the recommended staff procedures document, kind of titled buddy. It's like who's recommending it, so everything, and there's already a section in that appendix, whether or not that goes away or not. How staff support, acknowledging how it works. So I think we just omit that document. And then a third point was just to integrate that conduct of business document in the rules of procedure. And then the last recommendation is possibly just develop a single document as a planning commission. So proposed next steps, have the whole work planning commission meet as a, and have a work session, maybe after comp plan is tied up with a bow, maybe not, and we're okay with that. Kind of to go over this new document, what it looks like, since we all have to agree to it. Then meet with city council, and I put two specific or committees of the council. The public services committee and the general government committee. The general government committee was who worked together to put down together the latest update of that mayor and city council protocol manual. And then my understanding is the public services committee is kind of who works closest with the planning, like that's under the planning umbrellas.
Yeah, that committee does meet with us, over at our building once a month.
Okay, they've never met with us since I've been on the planning commission.
Right. They're there are 3 council members who primarily attend so that they can provide a briefing to council, usually that same evening, of what's going on in the planning department.
Nice to see them at a planning commission meeting. I think we should find them. And then after that, have a first draft. Really next year, that would be nice, and then, I'm sure the big tweaks, in a final draft, ideally within 2 months of that first draft. Any question?
We've got rid of a lot of the things.
I'm not trying to get rid of things.
I think for us, what we found out was there was a lot of redundancy and duplication. So it was, and obviously, again, pulling from archives and records, and then all of a sudden moving forward, like, oh, hey, I think this is a great idea. Let's adopt this plan now. And then, oh, hey, I see Lacey. So we're seeing a lot of duplication of efforts, which is there, which is great. But now for us, it's condensing it down to say, I don't think we need this, because now it's the same thing, one appendix to one appendix C. So that's what our main goal was, just reduce the redundancy of it.
As you've seen, as you go from one administration to another administration of the city, we had hard copy books that we got way back, and years, 20 years or more ago. But when you look at documents like the one that's the section 5, that's under prior administration, and now we're trying to look at some things that are brought out in this administration as what's sharing new numbers. And it's inconsistent. If we rely on what I was doing years and years ago, it's completely in terms of the operational expectation. At least in some areas. Being honest. Yeah, the vision plan is.
Yeah, there we go.
It's still the same. It's
When they put the PT building in, I was going, holy mackerel, that's from.
Okay, well, I'll just say one, I appreciate the efforts, and I agree with the one document, because, kind of coming in and getting inundated with a number of documents. And like you said, that there's, documents over here, and, the city council, there's documents over here with us, so to get everything in line is a good idea. So I don't know if we want to make a motion to just go for the one document as what was proposed, or if that's something that, we just, want to work out, as you get going, or.
we'd like to bring it back as the work session, as David said.
Okay.
And have everybody actually look at it, because there's work been done on a single document.
Well, I got held off when I found out about that appendix in May, so.
So just if I could butt in on that, at least based on the schedule we're anticipating for the comp plan for you guys. Which I'll talk about later, but you could make your. At least as things look now, you could make your January meeting a work session on this. So just to. Throw that out.
I love that.
Okay, anything further on the rules and procedures portion? So upcoming code changes, this. You know what that do?
Good evening, commission members. Thank you for having me tonight. I also have Assistant Fire Marshal Matt Russell of Southeast Christian Fire to review with me. We're just kind of looking at some code updates. The first section is going to be in definitions. As the code sits now, we have two definitions, one for buildings and one for structures, and they kind of conflict with each other. So having a separate definition where one doesn't play off of the other one would just make review and code compliance so much easier. So that's kind of what we're proposing is having a finite definition for each one, as they are two separate things. Does anyone have any questions on that? Well, we did have an appeal for a crime triple A.
Yeah.
And the language kind of got used against us in a matter of speaking because of those conflicting definitions. So just strengthening that language and making it more absolute. So if we're ever in that. If we're ever in that position again, we have finite language that we can use as a tool.
I have a question for you. I had heard, we had enough today that there was a grass fire recently. And it was actually caused by use of a heater in an area that is not a dwelling. But in this, and so it might have been a structure under your terminology here. Does that matter? I mean, are we setting different regulations for buildings versus structure? Because there was this grass fire, you said it was just today.
Yeah, it was just a grass fire this morning. It was caused by somebody using a heater, a homeless person using a heater. It just was against an embankment, and even though it's pretty wet outside, it's still dry enough to burn a little bit, but I don't know how.
It was neither a building nor a structure.
Correct.
But we could have situations of someone being in the structure that's not for an application. That's actually doing the same thing.
And that's where the definition, structure will, for the most part, mean not occupied. Bridges, towers, fences, things like that. So buildings will be held obviously to a much higher standard than structures because you're going to have human occupancy and everything. So having those two things separated would be very useful.
And I guess the bottom line of that question is there's different regulations that we're. Are we still going to hold people accountable for if there's a fire in a structure that's based on human occupancy, maybe, what I would call human occupancy?
Is a structured fire to be held at the same standard as an open fire? I mean, because you refer to them all as structured fires, right? Technically.
Yeah, that's how dispatch, yeah, but I don't believe that they've thought too deep about it in regards to, I mean, so if we get dispatched for a fence on fire, they usually turn out as a fence on fire. It's a bridge, we get dispatched for a bridge on fire. Usually a structure, I think, for our dispatching is 4 walls to run. But yeah, I wouldn't go too deep in how our dispatcher center qualifies certain types of things. So the question is basically, are people going to be held accountable for lighting something on fire, even if they're living in the spot they're not supposed to be living? That's going to be more of a law enforcement issue.
Yeah, and these definitions are mainly going to be used for land use and building review. Yeah, that's where their applicability would be.
These are the current definitions.
They are not. These are what the definitions will
These
become.
are proposed.
Yes.
Okay.
Because right now the definitions play off each other. Building uses the word structure in its definition. Structure uses the word building in its definition, and it really just messes
Oh.
everything.
Yeah, that's, I mean, a building is a structure, but not all structures are building.
Correct.
I was looking at what Lacey says with a little bit of, change, but Lacey says a structure means anything erected, the use of which has fixed location on or in the ground, or attachment to something having fixed location on the land, including but not limited to buildings, fences, signs, and walls. And then building means any structure built for the support, shelter, or enclosure of persons, animals, chattels, or property of any kind. So I thought those were good definition. I would probably not do fixed location on the ground for structure because you could have temporary structures. So ChatGPT said, a man-made construction for structure, a structure is any man-made construction or edifice constructed or installed on or below the ground. I thought those were interesting. I think. Yeah, I think the structure definition is a little too vague because anything constructed or built, can an airplane be constructed or built? Not attached to the ground, I don't know, I mean, erected might help because that implies building, but,
And then again, this will be used for a land use review. I mean, we wouldn't really do a land use review on someone constructing an airplane
Sure.
or a building review.
okay.
So I mean, this covers things that are in our scope of review and permitting.
And I've seen other cities specifically exclude things from structure, like retaining walls below 30 inches. I don't know if that's somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm building coded, you wouldn't need a permit for a retaining wall less than 4 feet.
And then for building specifically designed for human use. If it's for animals, I don't want to get into semantics, but that's why a lot of the other definitions talk about storage and animals. Like it. And the features including enclosed walls and roof, like, does it have to have enclosed walls and roof? Like, if it doesn't have walls and it just has a roof, is it not a building? Building code wise it is. Does it have to have interior spaces? I know that's probably the canopy on the gas station. I don't think that's what they were trying to claim. But that wouldn't, the canopy would be designed for occupancy, so.
Does it say human occupancy or just occupancy?
Human use or occupancy.
So I mean, a stable for animals would probably be considered more of a structure than a building because you're not gonna sprinkler it. It's not gonna be a large occupancy building. It's gonna have horses and animals. It's gonna have open areas similar to an open air parking garage.
So building. Still has to be as follow building code and footing.
I mean, you would be reviewed for those things, absolutely. It'd be reviewed as a structure. I mean, it would have to have, like you said, footings. It would have to have engineering, it would have to have bracing, it would have to have all those things. It'd have to be windproof, waterproof. All of those parameters would still apply. But the living quarters wouldn't, I mean, the interior element, you wouldn't need heating or cooling, you wouldn't need electrical, you wouldn't need plumbing. So that's really what's kind of differentiating that.
That's just a barn.
Right. Or an airplane hangar, that would be considered, a building, human occupancy. So we looked at a lot of other cities' codes and saw the way they were defining it, and that's how we kind of picked and borrowed a little bit from each recipe. And Bill will be happy. Okay. We also talked a bit about adult family homes. When a single family residence is converted into an adult family home, we put a sprinkler requirement on it, which is fantastic because you're talking about people that may be physically differently abled or cognitively disabled. The one thing we didn't anticipate was people would put in the sprinkler but not connect to city water.
Oh.
They put a 150 gallon tank in their garage. That's supposed to supply the plumbing line for the sprinklers. The problem is if the power goes out, there's no way for that to run. So we're asking them to have a battery backup, which is actually not expensive. It's very easy to do. Another avenue that we've been running into is when you have exterior covered areas. If someone decides to cover the whole back deck, you also have a huge fire hazard there, similar to a balcony on an apartment. So we're asking for a head to be out there to cover that area, which again is not an extraneous cost for a facility like this. And we also have to protect the backflow. Because when you have a tank like that, you fill it, what people are gonna do is they're gonna throw their garden hose in there, turn on the water, and we run the risk of backsiping into our system. It could be as simple as an air gap. You know, having something that holds the hose above the filling. So we don't have that backflow risk. And if they do go with the traditional backflow assembly, that needs to be tested annually, so we know it's functioning, and those reports are turned over to the city. So we're just asking to add that to the adult family home. Because again, we could have anticipated that people were gonna get creative and try to get around connecting to city water. This would cover that. This would make sure that the protections in place aren't neutralized in the event of a power outage.
And I recall when we first were looking at this years ago, that the concern was that the homes that are being converted. The people don't have a significant amount of capital to make these conversions, and yet. They want to be able to enable the residents that need homes like this to be able to do one. And it sounds like you've made accommodation to figure out ways that these additional sprinklers can be done at very low cost.
It definitely lowers the cost to not have to dig up the street and connect to the water main. Or, you know, add another meter and another line. So I think one of the homes we worked with, it was $10,000 for them to put in the sprinkler line in the tank, and it would maybe be a couple of $100 to put a battery backup in there. So yeah, it keeps the cost down. In these facilities, I mean, some of them are charging $6,000 a month per resident. So it's really not putting a huge hurt on it. Some people try to sell you.
That's good, thank you.
Absolutely. Another one we were looking at was electric vehicle charging station. The problem with those is there's no way to kill the power to them. When those catch fire, it has a continuous fuel supply. So having a disconnect that's remote, so our firefighters aren't going into the noxious smoke to try and get up there and unplug the car. So what we're asking for is a disconnect, which is not an expensive item, 40 feet from the charging port. And when 40 feet is not possible, because you have a smaller property, we could go as low as 20 feet. It still keeps these guys safe. They can cut the supply off to it, contain the fire, and we won't have a flashover where the fire just keeps igniting itself. And then you're just fighting them in this battle. Again, those fumes are very noxious. We want to keep these guys as far away from that as we can. But we don't want it to be more than 100 feet charging port. It's got to be located, just like a fuel station. You don't want to get on a large site and try to figure out where is our disconnect. You know, it's 150, 200 feet that way. So this keeps it all nice and contained. Usually they have an emergency plan, so they know what they're going into when they go into it. So they know where to locate all of these things. So it just protects everybody.
So, question for you. So in a garage, you know, you've got your power wall, essentially. Park the car right there within what, 15 feet of it? So now I've got to figure out a way to go another 20 feet for a shop.
No, not at all, because in a single family residence, you can kill the power supply at the knife switch that's outside typically.
Okay.
This is gonna be more for commercial places.
Okay.
Safeway, the charging area we have here, the charging areas we have back here.
Okay.
So yeah, it'll be more of those outdoor commercial areas.
Okay, like there's no verbiage in here. I'm assuming section 1822.060 is that commercial chargers or?
It's a new section that's just being added to the code, but that's a very good point. We'll take that into consideration that it doesn't speak to commercial exclusively.
Okay.
And it probably should. That would definitely clear a lot of things out.
Awesome, thank you.
I think use of station kind of,
I'm sorry?
I think the use of word station, I mean. In real estate, if you said, you know, you have charging ability in your garage, you would say, I have a charging station.
garage. That's what they're called. That's what they're called, they're charging stations. Yeah, just like a gas station.
I'm going to say,
But in the
in the
garage-
real estate world, you don't put it in as a charging station.
Single family.
Charge, yeah.
I'm not a realtor though.
And on a deeper note, what we're looking at also is in the single family homes, we're starting to have battery storage in those for these charging stations, like. We're having to come up with ways to protect those from the rest of the dwelling. So this is all new technology that's ever changing. We're just trying to keep up with it. The last one's a real easy one. This last one's a slam dunk. It's a code that's referencing a code that doesn't exist. There is no 1857-120. There may have been in a previous code cycle, but just updating 120 to 110. will Get people on the correct path. Excellent. All right, thank you all so much.
Right, this, this new.
So we will be bringing them back to you because we have to have a hearing on these. Yeah, we just wanted to give you an idea of what's coming.
So, discussion on the comp plan update schedule.
Okay, thank you. Few things. One, as you can see, I printed out a draft. It's the current draft. It's not the final draft. But as I said earlier, I find it easier to mark up old school. So I thought that might be useful. The binders are a little tight. I apologize. I thought it'd be fun to sort of just be able to see it all out there because it is a lot different than it used to be. We got graphs and photos and tables and charts, and the plan itself is a little over twice as long as our previous plan, which was about 50 pages, and this is right now at 111. A lot of added content. The transportation, housing, and climate chapters in particular have added a lot. Andrew was the lead on the housing chapter. I think he did an excellent job, and it's just a lot more robust because we had so many more new state requirements that we needed to include in the housing chapter this go around. I promised you, and will still deliver to you within probably about a week. I'm going through the comp plan and also creating a document that just shows what changes were made in each of the draft or each of the chapters, with one caveat, because housing, transportation, and climate, well, climate's a brand new chapter. Those three, I'm just going to have to refer you to the actual chapter itself because we've made so many changes in those. It would be just like pulling the chapter out and putting it on another document, which doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. But so, I will direct you, chapter by chapter. And when we get to that, I'll just say C chapter.
So it'd be like a red line version or something?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah. Not including minor changes, like, Dana had a lot of editing comments that we included in the update, but I'm not gonna give you every single little change we made. Wanted to let you know that the Facebook posts that we did, which has probably been about 5 weeks now, and it's been a week since I checked with Lynn, our communications director, but it was a post alerting folks to the availability of the comp plan on our website and contact information, that being me, and the option to take a transportation survey on the website if they choose to do so. So that post has received over 4,000 views, which really surprised me. 66 visits to the website. It's been shared 4 or 5 times. So there are people interested enough to send it along to other people and say, hey, check this out. The survey has been completed 14 times. I don't have that information for you tonight because our consultant has to compile it for us because they're running that piece of the website. Anyway, I thought that was encouraging. As far as next step go, I am proposing that our next month's meeting be an open house, and that if possible, we change our meeting time to 6 p.m. 4 p.m. Is not always doable for people working. And so to give folks the opportunity to do that, I was going to propose that we do it in our community center. And still kind of thinking about the format, probably starting with, a presentation to the audience just about what the heck we're doing and why we're doing it and that kind of thing. And then having stations for the chapters kind of around the room. Might have our consultant, one or two of them there for the chapters they worked on. Andrew will be the housing guy sitting next to the housing chapter, and I'll be on the land use chapter and that kind of a thing. So people can go around, look at what we're working on, ask questions. The next meeting after that in December is when I anticipate us being able to hold a hearing on the comp plan. So that's 2 months from now. That's time to get more, get comments and try to get our draft to the point where it's ready for you all to hopefully feel comfortable adopting it. Now there's a little twist, and I've already worked this out with the Department of Commerce, but the jurisdictions are supposed to have their comp plans adopted by their council by December 30th. The issue we have with that is that we are also, as you know, working on an annexation. And our comp plan, as drafted, anticipates the annexation occurring. So our land use analysis, our land capacity analysis, housing numbers, things like that, are based on what the city will look like pending annexation. And so we don't want to presuppose the council's decision. I talked to the management team about this today as well. So we want to complete the annexation before council does its final adoption of the comp plan. It will have it's already been sent to the Department of Commerce for their 60-day review, the current draft, just for consistency with the Growth Management Act. You will have had a hearing and hopefully voted to approve it before December 30th. As I said, I talked to our commerce planners about that, and they're comfortable with that because they know that we're actually intending to adopt this plan. It just won't be, it'll probably be, if I had to guess, and again, I don't like to just say the annexation will occur because that's not in my hands. The council has to approve that annexation. But I see us taking the annexation to council probably in January. And so then the adoption of the comp plan would follow within probably 6 weeks of that. Because after the council, assuming they do approve the annexation, after they approve it, there's a 45-day review period by the Boundary Review Board. So we have to make sure that we get through that review period, and then the annexation would be formal, and then we come right back in and adopt our comp plan, and everything would be in sync. So that's kind of my plan.
So we're looking at adopting the plan.
I would say February to March. Some of this has been, so the process that we're pursuing for the annexation is a method called the interlocal agreement method. And it's more or less a two-step process. First, we have to develop an interlocal agreement with Thurston County, showing how basically laying out a pathway for how the annexation will occur. They'll give us information on stormwater facilities, or if they have collected SEPA mitigation fees over the years that will have to transfer to us. And just, it's kind of just the rules of handing the baton from one to the other. But we both have to hold a public hearing on the interlocal agreement, approving it. And that's been a bit challenging because the county schedule's different than ours, of course, but they're scheduled to take their interlocal agreement to their Board of County Commissioners the 3rd week of December. Once they do that, then the rest is all on us. So once they decide on the interlocal agreement, then it just comes back to the city So we will have had our interlocal agreement hopefully approved by council by then as well. And then all we have to do is an ordinance to do the annexation itself. We do that via ordinance. So there'll be a public hearing at that time.
Just, real quick on the website and, you know, the comp plan being posted and stuff. I attended the Civic 101 last night.
Uh-huh.
And there was a few citizens that had mentioned, that they weren't aware of, you know, some of the stuff that was posted and to be able to access it and stuff. And with your mentioning some of the numbers, Lynn had mentioned, you know, some of the methods that, you know, the city's been kind of trying to put out there to make, you know, residents aware of what's there and how they can comment on the comprehensive plan and stuff. So I just kind of wanted to point that out, that there were some citizens that were interested in looking at that. It was just a matter that they weren't aware that, you know, those tools were out there. Another thing, speaking of the annexation, is that here again, some residents weren't aware of the annexation or what areas were going to be annexed. If we do the open house next month and we have, you know, tables set up as, you know, you'd mentioned, is there the potential of maybe putting something out on the annexation as well, so people could get informed of maybe what that, you know, like me, I live in the UGA. So, I mean, you know, to let residents know that, okay, you're going to be incorporated into the city. This is what it means to you.
Yeah. So let me tell you what my plan is on that. After we take the interlocal agreement to the council and assuming they approve it, then we're going to mail to every person in the annexation area a letter saying that we're working on an annexation. We have a 4-page, maybe frequently asked questions document that will be included with that. So what happens to your well? What happens to your septic? All that. And we will also provide them with information to go to the city's website, where we will by then, and we haven't put it up yet because it's just not the right time, we will have an annexation web page. And that annexation web page will have what we call a listserv. The listserv is a tool where they can put in their contact information, and it will automatically, when we schedule a public meeting or a hearing or whatever, it will automatically send those people an email notifying of what's coming up. So we're doing our best to try to make sure that every property owner in the annexation area that we're proposing will get a letter well before we have anything go to council. Yeah, so, you know, I think we're going to do a pretty thorough coverage of making sure everyone is aware. We don't want to do it too soon, and we don't want to, want to kind of try to manage the process a little bit to get a little, you know, if the council doesn't do an ILA, we're not doing an annexation anyway.
Right.
Now, as far as annexations go, just be aware that those don't go to planning commission. They go directly to the city council. So I'm not opposed to doing something at the open house. I'll talk to Cody about it a little bit. I mean, it might just sort of depend on the timing of where we are with getting the ILA to the council. But we do plan to have, we will also be letting the folks know when we do the mailing that we're going to have an open house before we ever go to council with it. So we're going to try to blanket them with information.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I don't have anything else on this right now. And happy reading.
Awareness. There was a flyer that was attached to April's email that had the minutes or the agenda and minutes. I don't know if anyone saw that. Oh no, the attachment. So everyone's free to post that out around. I put a flyer up at the library. I put a flyer up at the Starbucks by Yale Medical Plaza. In Hazel, you were gonna put them up.
Mm-hmm.
Dog park.
dog park, Longmire and the community center.
And
You are-
Commissioner Allen is the author of that, so we give credit
Oh,
where credit's due.
True,
So,
he's in graphic design.
Yeah.
Made it young official.
Okay, so. No public hearings. Did anybody have any other questions or anything for Gary? Okay, there's no public hearings. Any subcommittee reports outside of?
Tree board will meet this week to discuss a little more what we're in for Arbor Day celebration planning. And discuss a little more about our 5-year strategic urban planning. 5-year plan, basically, maintaining all of the forests. We have a plan due for 2026 to 2031.
Speaking of, kind of off the subject, speaking of trees, do you know of where residents can potentially get saplings that they can plant on their property to reestablish like growth, like me, I've got a hill behind my property that I would like to, put, more trees on. Do you have a source or somebody that we're able to get saplings from, like, the loggers use to, get saplings to replant trees, some of the evergreens?
I can only suggest it, the first couple that would pop up if we were to do a Google search, so no one thinks the city's including recommending run business or another. But there's Gordon's, Jason's Greenhouse, Seeds.com, there's a lot of resources for you to really get saplings. And there is actually a really good place in the line. Watch these from.
Seed place.
Yeah, we bought those saplings. What were those? The silver maples.
Yeah, they're pretty strong. Yeah.
Yeah, the last time we did the saplings. For the beginning. Yeah, there's plenty of local resources.
Thank you. Okay. Any other subcommittee?
I did come up with a question, if I may. And that is for this draft.
Yeah.
And in preparation to be able to do, have plenty of time to prepare for the open meeting next time. When and how do you want feedback on this draft of the, either edits or comments or changes of the evening?
I'm pretty flexible. I mean, track changes is always the easiest thing to do, but if. Well, I have a Word version that I can send you. But whatever's most comfortable for you. I mean, we can always figure it out. If you write up, you've given me written comments before and I've been able to work through those, but, if you all do want, and if we haven't given you the Word version, then I'm happy to send you the Word version if you like to work in Word and do track changes.
I think it was cool.
Probably was, but I do have it and I'll send it out. And if you want to use it, fine. If you don't, that's fine too. It's the same thing as this, but just different format.
I always go do it. And the hard copy, but when you printed the pages, it's just convenient, but gone through the effort to print the pages. I'll go through the one that was on, sent out for the agenda. But the timing is what I'm curious of. What is it cutoff day?
Well, I mean, we're not planning to have a hearing until December. Third week of December. I would think that if you got me something, say, December 10th, I'll send out a date. I hadn't really nailed down a hard deadline.
I'm understanding from that you don't want to update this draft prior to the open meeting. Is that the case?
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, it's a continuous deal. So, I mean, whatever updates you folks come up with even before then, I think that I would encourage you to submit them to me. And if we get comments at the open meeting that we want to do further edits or updates, then we'll do that. So it's sort of a continuous process.
But there's no specific date for a cutoff before the open meeting.
how about a week before? If we want something incorporated in the comp plan that's gonna be ready for the open house,
Yeah,
we just set a deadline.
that's fine. Yeah. I mean, at the open house, I mean, folks are probably not gonna try to sit down and read the document by that night. So, I mean, it's gonna be more of a presentation of the things that we're proposing to do and the highlights of the updates and some of the things we've been required to do. But, so. Yeah, I'm not super concerned about that as far as the next meeting goes. My main concern is just getting everything compiled before we have our December hearing.
Yeah, I think previously when we were doing individual chapters, he was asking us to do our, to submit it a week before the meeting. Then, but since this is it in the entirety, that we're basically just skipping till just before. the
Yeah.
hearing.
What I'm concerned about is if I submit edits. It's always helpful for me to see another draft that actually has the edits in it.
And you will.
And then to see it before the hearing. I'm trying to put that,
Yeah, well, you'll definitely see it before the hearing.
Well-
Because that will be the proposed final draft. But I mean, I'm hoping because we've gone through one round that there won't be a whole lot more, but you never know. So,
Okay, because I think if I understand Ann correctly, I think what she's saying is that if we're saying, okay, technically, if there's a December 10th due date, that I don't think that she believes that if we're submitting on that date, that there would be enough turnaround time to do the edits, provide another draft by the hearing.
that's correct.
So,
And then ensure the comments were addressed.
yeah.
Yes,
So that,
so that's what I'm looking for. It's a timeline that set expectations. of When is our cutoff for edits?
okay, well, let's just say December 10th. I mean, we'll make the edits and then they will appear in your packet and we'll have the hearing. And if there are still things that you're not satisfied with in it, there's a potential to make some more changes, or there's just, if you don't like what we've written, then you can vote against it. I think pretty much, I think all the edits that we have been, almost all, not every single one, but almost every single edit and change or addition that's been suggested has been included. So we're pretty open to just following your lead.
Additional comments?
Very. Fine. Somewhat related to the rules and procedures, updates, in looking what the other jurisdictions had, reading through Lacey's handbook advisory body, or there's some guidebook or handbook. I noticed, the members of the different advisory boards and commission had, youth council representatives. I'm like, what is this? So that took me down a rabbit hole. And this is the Lacey Youth Council, which I think is great against high schoolers. And it's not just, one high school, it's all the high school, private schools, homeschoolers, involved in their local government. Here's what you think, Councilmember Johnson. If, will be open to that, I'm assuming it's a pretty low cost program. I don't know if there's any interest, if it's ever happened before. It's even a big enough city to have such a program, but I noticed the planning commission didn't, definitely not a voting member of the youth council, but I think it would be great to have represented and could, have their input. On all the advisory boards could have like parks, if they had assigned, they would either vote amongst themselves, they have their own mayor and council. And then they would assign themselves as committee members, like
What's that?
their local governments.
We had one, so.
We did.
A while ago, and then couldn't get another, even one person from the school to
They're like,
volunteer.
A couple years ago, I mean, maybe within the last 10 years or so, there was a youth council. I don't know, it's not around anymore. I don't know how long it lasted. But I know the previous mayor and city administrator did try to do that. I don't know, how it went or how long it lasted again, but the school district actually has a good example of student representatives on their school board. So it might be, worthwhile to check with the, superintendent and school board to see, what they did to make it successful.
If I can interject for a second, I know that, and I agree with, Dana that, because right now that, public participation and civic engagement, especially with, the young folks is kind of a lot lower than what it used to be like, during, my era and stuff, that, civic engagement used to be, a lot higher, that, people participating in their communities and stuff. And so I think anything that can be done through the city council or whatever to try to encourage, people to be involved, to, get their voices, because, back in February, when we're doing the climate portion, that, there was, 45 different comments on the, Yelman surrounding areas, but yet nobody showed up, at the meeting, even though I posted, hey, you're welcome to come and things like that, but, people, they'll do it on Facebook, but they won't come to actually participate, so anything that can be done, I mean, I would definitely, agree with it. Good idea.
I don't know who.
Try it again.
Where we are, right? I'll talk to you, see, how to, who I even talk to get that.
I think that would be a city administrator conversation. I did have one more thing I meant to say about our Facebook post. So we did have 4,000 views and 66 visits to the website, but we received no written comments. So
I noticed there was another post today.
And I did mention last night during the Civic 101 is that I did mention that comments could be made because, people were, kind of the comp plan had been, brought up. I mean, that was kind of a portion of the meeting last night. And, people were kind of talking about it and stuff. And I mentioned that there was the avenue to be able to make comments on the website. So, hopefully, they were a little more educated on what they were able to do. So,
yeah, I mean, on the website, it basically just says direct your comments to me. And it has a link to my email address.
yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
at least it's an avenue. I mean, it's someplace that they can go to
Yeah.
do it. And I mean, there was like, pretty full house last night. I mean, so. Anyway, no, so hopefully, we'll start getting some comments.
Yeah, the one
So,
problem, issue for me anyway, with the website is we do have a tab on the main page, but there are several tabs on the main page, and you have to see that there's a little arrow on the right to scroll to
Mhm.
be able to see our tab. I don't have any control over that, but it's not going to be right there. As long as they participate in the comp plan update, you've got to hit the arrow to scroll to get to it.
Okay, any further questions, comments? Hey, is there a motion to adjourn? A motion to adjourn. Your second? Second. All in favor?
All right.
Okay, the meeting is adjourned. It's 5:02 PM. Thank you.